Hello, hypothetical audience. I'm JJNW'S Ghost, and welcome to some hazy cosmic jive. So, when I was preparing the mashup video and some of the topics I wanted to discuss, one of them was the show Amphibia. I've been watching the first season with both my roommates. The three of us were really enjoying it, and so I just kind of wanted to talk about it and what my vibe was so far. But since we actually finished the first season yesterday, and today was when I actually started being able to record some videos, I decided, no, this needs to be its own video because I feel like I have quite a bit to say about it. So like I just said, really enjoyed the show, and I feel like I can boil it down to 4 general reasons. The writing of the show, the characters in the show, it's just kind of the dark turns that it takes, and what I gather from the story so far. So first of those, the writing. The show is hilarious. The lines are great. The reaction shots are great. I mean, that's not quite writing. That's more the animation, but it all works together for the humor. One of my favorite jokes is it's the I can't remember what it's called, what the episode is called. It's like Taking Charge or something like that. But it's the Zapapede episode, the Suspicion Island episode, where a thread throughout the episode is someone watched the entire season and drained the battery in Anne's phone, so they need to go get it charged with some electric centipede things, which by the way, I also really like a lot of the creature designs in the show. But they need to get the phone charged so they can finish watching the show, also because Anne's phone is important. And so, the characters are suspicious as to who did it, who was the one that did everything and drained the battery. And at the end, it's revealed that Hop Pop did it. And she's like, but why? Why did you watch all the episodes? I thought you hated it. Hated it? Hated it? I loved it. And the way it just zooms in on his wrinkly face, the way he says that line, it's probably my favorite single joke from the season. Oh, I love it, man. And in addition to the writing being really funny, there's also a really good sense of continuity. For example, in that episode, once the phone has been charged by being exposed to all the electricity, it says oh, it is now at 10,000%. So from this point forward, you don't need to charge your phone. I mean, it's a bit of more of a plot convenience, bit of continuity. I mean, it still counts. But some of the other ones, there's an early episode where they're trying to make a pizza, and they go to the baker to get some dough, and he's like, well, I'll give you dough if your son agrees to marry my daughter. And as Anne says, she's like, yeah, Sprig's eternal happiness is fine to sacrifice for pizza, something like that. And there's a later episode where Sprig is wearing an engagement ring from her, and because she's the creepy goth girl, the ring is a skull and the eyes are on fire, which it's just funny. But I like how that wasn't just a one-off thing that was forgotten. It's at least referenced a couple more times throughout the season. And I feel like the show is usually really consistent about that, where if something is brought up, either, in the episode or... Yeah, let me try that again. It's really good about bringing stuff back. Whether it's it's something that gets brought back before an episode is over, or it's something that's just yeah, this is a plot point or just a character beat that we didn't forget. And I really enjoy that. There's one episode that ends with Hop Pop just screaming, I'm unemployed! And then a recurring arc throughout the next few episodes is, yeah, that's still a thing. That's not just a dumb thing that happened at the end of the episode that's completely forgotten. No, the plot of quite a few of the next few episodes revolve around this fact, and I like that. So point number 2 is the characters. I really like the main characters of this show. I find that the main 4, so that would be Anne, Hop Pop, Sprig, and Polly. The latter 3 are all related. It's a brother, sister, and a grandpa, and then the human that ends up living with them. I will just refer to them collectively as the Planters, because let's be real, Anne is a member of the family. And I think they're all likable characters, but they do still have some notable flaws that while don't, at least for the most part, maybe in like an episode or two, they'll be a bit unlikable. But I feel like for the most part, they remain likable, and the flaws just kind of it just fleshes them out a bit. Like Anne. Anne's character flaw, at least to me, is she has a very loose moral compass. She does not mind like breaking the rules to get something she wants. She doesn't mind lying or goofing off and shaving off her responsibility. But it becomes clear that she's not malicious. She doesn't do this to hurt people. She doesn't do this to get a rise out of people. It's almost like she doesn't know what she's doing is wrong. Or it's like she kind of knows it's wrong, but it's like, but it's not a big deal because no one's going to get hurt by it. But, when, shit hits the fan, she has no problem, stepping up, admitting her mistakes, and, helping people out. Sprig's main flaw is the fact that, I don't want to phrase it. It's like the fact that he's a child, but I guess it's the fact that he can be, really naive about things, or he almost gets, too excited and fixated on something. I think that was how I would probably best say it. He gets too fixated on an idea, whether it's hey, something of mine went missing, I need to find it, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to find it. But that I feel like is probably Sprig's biggest flaw. Hop Pops is really easy. He can be very stubborn and very traditional. There are the old ways, there are the traditions, and he doesn't want to deviate from those. But at the same time, you can tell that he is willing to learn and adapt. If it turns out that one of the old ways just I guess this one's not working out so well. Or it's okay, I know I set this whole thing up. There's an episode when he's trying to get Sprig hitched, and he's to do this, you have to follow this tradition, this tradition, this tradition. And by the end of it, he's okay, I made a mistake. One, I shouldn't have been trying to ship you off for the family's financial situation. And also, I'm not gonna do all of this stuff again. If you find that you like someone, you do it your way, we'll be good. And then there's Polly. Polly doesn't have any flaws. Polly's perfect. But in addition to just, liking the characters and their personalities, I also love their chemistry. They work off each other, and the side characters as well, they work off each other very well. It's the humor, for the most part, maybe every now and then there'll be a joke that doesn't quite work. But for the most part, I feel like the jokes work very well because, these characters are established enough that, that is something Anne would do and say. And she and Sprig work off each other very well, but they also can work off Hop Pop very well, etc., etc. But it doesn't just work with the humor. It also works really well at those heartwarming moments, especially in the season finale. The Lean On Me scene works because we've had a full season to see the strength of Anne's relationship with the Planters and how far they are willing to go to protect each other and help each other when they need it. And when Sasha is seeing this and she can see how it's no one had to be lied to, no one had to be manipulated. They were all just willing to put everything down to help Anne in this situation. How Anne, at the same time, was willing to do all of that for her. It dawns on her how toxic and how horrible she has been to her friend. And that, the best thing she can do, to be a better friend, the best option is just to let go. And I feel because of we've had that whole season to see these characters and get to know them, it feels believable, it feels earned. And so when you get that last shot of the episode where after all the crap that just happened, Anne is there and she just hugs the Planters and Hop Pop's you're holding me a little tight, Anne. No, I'm not. It's oh, it's just so sweet, and I just loved it. I really did. But the sweet stuff and the humor is not the only thing I like about this show. I also love how really dark it can get. Like, I genuinely expect every episode to see something die or like to get carted off by a predator and never seen again. Like, you know that scene from The Emperor's New Groove when Cusco is in the forest and like there's a little fly or mosquito, whatever it was, buzzing around and it gets stuck in a spider and like, help me, and then you see the spider go, like tear it apart, and he's like, that's the freakiest thing I've ever seen. Something of that ilk is in every single episode of Amphibia. This place is like, it is an absolute death world to everybody, and it's kind of amazing. My favorite example of this is the camping episode. I think it's called Anne of the Wild. So the planters go on like this extreme camping trip, and as part of the trip, you know, there's scary stories that are told. One of the stories is about like the mud men or the mud people, whatever they called them. Essentially, it's like, you know, a bunch of muddy creatures. You know, they're only afraid of like being clean and something else. I don't remember what the other thing was. But like, they're these monsters. You know, they'll come out of the depths. They'll eat you. They'll kill you. Blah 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 blah. So I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, so what's probably going to happen is either A, the mud people are like a real supernatural thing, and they're just misunderstood. Like, all right, they're a little creepy, but it's, you know, they're not actually monsters. Or two, they're not supernatural. It is just people dressing up as mud, but it's their own form of camping. It's like they like to scare people. Maybe it's even a scam. Like, this guy will bring people to this one like secluded hardcore camping spot. The mud people will come out, scare them, and, you know, they could take all the loot. Something like that. And that's not at all what happened. They are actual cannibals. Like, they throw an axe at a guy's back, and he is seemingly dead for a few minutes. After they all get cleaned, they walk away embarrassed. And one guy, I think he says something like, "Man, I just wanted to get dirty and eat people." We're like, oh, they were serious about this. They were actual cannibals. Which leads me to another episode. I think it's like Night in the Inn. That is the one where the planters, like, they're going on a trip, but there ends up being an issue with Bessie, which is the snail, which is also their car. But they're like, all right, we're basically having car trouble. We gotta stop for the night. Hey, there's a nice little bed and breakfast. And there's a couple toads. I don't remember what kind of toad they were, because I think they said, like, we're specifically something, but like the toads, like, they're the housekeepers. They're very nice. And throughout the night, Polly starts noticing, like, there's something weird going on. Like, oh, Hop Pop just disappeared. Anne is gone. Sprig is gone. That's not a good thing. And there's a scene where, like, the toads, like, have pictures of the planters. Like, oh, I'm going to get this one. Oh, I'm going to get this one. I'm like, oh, okay. This is like that one episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog when... And it's like he and Eustace go to a diner, and there's the big pig who's like making the burgers, and Courage is convinced that they're trying to eat Eustace. Like, they're gonna kidnap him and use his meat to make a burger. Like, oh, okay. Creepy setup, but still fun. I kind of know where this is going. And no, that's not what happens here. These people actually tried to eat them. And to make it worse, once they escape and they go into like the stable to get Bessie, they see all like this collection of other snails, with the implication being all of those people, like, that represents at least one person, assuming it wasn't a family, at least one person that was devoured by these innkeepers. And, like, you specifically see one that has, like, a little ribbon on it that just says, like, just married. And you're like, oh, that actually hurt. This show had the balls to do that. I love this. This is so good. The kind of places this show goes, I really respect it for. And the fact that this is season 1, I'm really excited to see how they turn it up in season 2 and 3. I kind of know what happens at the end of season 2, so it sounds like I won't be disappointed. And just the last thing is the story. So the basic plot, it's Anne and her two friends end up getting isekai'd into Amphibia. Anne ends up living with the frogs. Sasha gets captured by the toads. And by the time season 1 ends, we have not seen or heard from Marcy. I think I've seen that she's like with the Newts in Newtopia, which is where they're trying to go in season 2, so that makes sense. But we have not seen her. Overall, they don't focus a whole lot on the story in season 1, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. There's just enough of it. There's a couple episodes with Sasha, seeing what's going on here, kind of setting up a conflict. There's a couple episodes where Anne is trying to figure, because the way they got isekai'd was they opened a music box, which Anne still has. So there's a few episodes where she's trying to learn about the box, or like, hey, I want to go explore the world to find my friends. And then Hop Pop takes him to the library, but we need to do some research so we know, A, what is out there, and 2, how can we be prepared for it? Because the last thing we want to do is go on this epic adventure and die 2 seconds in, because this is Amphibia. That can 100% happen. So I feel like the way the story is handled in season 1, I like it. There's enough of it so that it still feels like it's not forgotten. But not too, I don't want to say not too much, because if they wanted to go full story, that'd be completely fine. But I like that just for the first season, we're really taking our time with this, we're establishing the world, and we're making sure to establish the characters. So that when the story gets going, and things go hard, I don't know, the ending of season 1, the Lean On Me scene, because the characters have been so established, it works. So I feel like the show has done just a really good job with all of that. I adore it. We already watched the first episode or 2 of the second season. I'm very much looking forward to getting through it and then getting to season 3. So just real quickly before closing, I wanted to just list my 10 favorite episodes from season 1, and there's a line or 2 about them if I haven't talked about them yet. Number 10, Night at the Inn. That's one of the Cannibal Toads. Loved it because it was dark. Number 9, Anne vs. Wild. That's the camping one. Same thing. Those last couple minutes were so funny in that episode. Number 8, Stakeout. So this is the one where Anne and Hop Pop have this shared fever dream because they each one drinks the other's energy drink so they can stay up, which leads to this whole anime crazy fight scene, which is funny and I enjoyed, but what made it gut-bustingly hilarious is when it cuts to Sprig and Polly, who aren't having the fever dream, watching Anne and Hop Pop, who, in their minds are kamehamehaing and stuff, but in reality, they're just, wandering around talking about power-ups, and Sprig and Polly have no idea what's going on. Amazing. Number 7 is Prison Break. This is an episode that's not super funny, but, it established Sasha, you get an understanding of her personality and kind of an idea of what her relationship with Anne was like, which I thought was really good and really important. Number 6 was Wally and Anne. That was just a sweet episode. I was actually surprised how much I really enjoyed watching that one. Number 5 is Cursed. That's the one that focuses on Maddie, which is the goth girl. She's very similar to one of my own characters, so I took a bit of a shine to her. It also has an evil Willy Wonka, and Anne gets cursed and turns into a bird, and everything with Bird Anne is just top notch. Number 4 is Children of the Spore. This one's just really funny. I really liked the antagonist of the giant evil mushroom and the way it gets defeated. Number 3 is Taking Charge. That's the Suspicion Island one I mentioned. Loved it. Number 2, Snow Day. This one was my favorite for a really long time. It's the way Sprig is written, so it's everyone and all the frogs get frozen because the weather dropped too hard, too low, and Anne is just trying to make sure that everyone stays safe. But she's bored, so she unthaws Sprig, but because it's too cold for him to function, he's just really slow and not all there, and it's so so funny. Like, that particular version of Sprig is probably my favorite character of the whole show. And then, number 1, it's Reunion. It's the season finale. I cried during the Lean On Me scene. I've been having like weird allergies the past few days where like my eyes will just kind of start leaking. And so I was like, am I crying because the scene is that good, or am I crying because of my allergies? So I rewatched it a couple times to be sure, and it's not the allergies. I cried like every time I rewatched it. So Amphibia gets the prestigious title of having a 100% cry rate. I adored season 1, and I am sincerely looking forward to watching the end of the show. But, that's all I have to say about it. So, till next time, I ain't no TJ, but I'll be seeing you in the sky.